Welcome to Let's Talk About Live. We're here for a live reading of Chapter 2 of my newly available for pre-order book, Migraine, Root, Reclaim, Rise. This was intended to be a live reading, and it was a live reading on Substack at 4 p.m. on Tuesday, BST, but unfortunately the connection was so terrible that many of you were unable to join, and of those who were able to join, you couldn't hear me clearly anyway, and eventually the connection fully dropped out. I was very hopeful that the recording would come through and be very clear in its recording, but when I checked the clips this morning, that wasn't the case. So I'm here re-recording so that I can share this with you to return to another time or whenever you're ready, of your choosing. So welcome. If you've been in my spaces before, you'll know that we always open the space by lighting the candles and doing a lovely settling in arrival meditation. That helps for me as much as you when I'm turning up this morning with my hair unbrushed. My head's not been great overnight, so I'm forever thankful for the invitation of my own that is to show up as we are, show up as you are, and I extend that to myself as well. I show up as I am, not perfectly polished, not thoroughly well presented, but just as I am in this moment, honouring where I'm at and how I'm feeling. So yeah, I'm showing up without pushing or forcing or chasing or feeling like I have to and I must do and I should do. But I'm showing up as I am, making space for myself and how I feel and how I present today, knowing that that's enough. And it's, probably one of my first times in my life that I've felt that in the more embodied sense. So, we'll start by opening the space by lighting 3 candles. Before we went live yesterday with the first recording attempt, I tuned into the energy of those who had expressed an interest in joining us and attending this space, and the energetic intention for each of the 3 candles. I like to light 3 candles. You're very welcome to light a candle with me. For those of you listening to this afterwards, please join me in lighting a candle or enjoy the space that is being held and opened for you, and I'll light this candle on our behalf if not. So I'm lighting the first candle in honour of peace, the second in honour of love, and the third in honour of understanding. Peace, love, understanding, the 3 energetic intentions that came through for today's space. Perhaps you might resonate with one or all of those. You might feel a desire to experience or feel one or more of those. Tune into which one resonates the most for you. Peace, love, understanding. And if you'd like to take a few moments to settle into your space, ensure you have what you'd like to hand, whether that be a drink of water or a hot drink, cushions, blankets. Space for yourself for these next 30 or 40 minutes or so. And resting gently in any way that's comfortable for you, whether seated or lying down. Let's take a few moments to rest our eyes, if that feels good to you. So I invite you to close your eyes with me, or if you prefer, take a gentle gaze to a space or a spot in front of you, a floor or a ceiling or a part of the wall. Maybe even a view out of the window, up at the sky, or a part of nature. Bringing your attention towards your breath, meeting your breath where it is in this moment. So we're not, as I mentioned when I opened this space, we're not looking to chase anything or force anything or push for anything. We're looking to meet ourselves exactly as we are in this moment, and that includes meeting our breath where it is in this moment. And that might be feeling rushed or pushed. We might be taking shorter, quicker breaths. This isn't something we're looking to have figured out or get right or do a particular or certain way. This is something that we're looking to explore and open up to, meet, become curious about. Are we breathing through our nose or our mouth? Are we breathing out through our nose or our mouth? Where is the gentle rise and fall that we're experiencing in our body? Is it in our chest, high up, lower part of our chest, in our heart space? Or are we feeling that rise and fall in our belly? Perhaps even placing a hand wherever you feel that rise and that fall, somewhere along your torso. Gently breathing in. And gently breathing out. Feeling that rise and that fall steadily. Meeting you as you are in this moment. Feeling that rise and that fall as it is in this moment. Moving on to feeling that support beneath you, that connection between your sit bones and your seat, or your back and all the way along your body. If you're lying down, allowing the steadiness of the seat, the bed, the support to hold you. Getting a sense of it rising up to meet you, to support you. Softening into that. Allowing that. Surrendering to that. Breathing into that. Breathing into all of that. The relief and the comfort that may bring, the discomfort. Any awkwardness that might arise. Or that may be felt through that. Breathing into all of it. making space for our breath, for our connection, for the support, for how that feels, no matter how welcome or unwelcome. And gently continuing to breathe in as you feel that rise. Witnessing that fall as you breathe out. And using your breath to come back to your body, back to the room that you're in, back to the space that we're in together. Maybe bringing in some gentle movement. I'll show you what I'm doing. I sometimes like to bring in just a gentle massage, sweeping my hips, around my hips, along my thighs. Perhaps it's another form of massage for you, or a stretch, or a wiggle. Moving it in any way that feels good to you, just to bring yourself back into the room, back into the four walls that you're in, the space. Looking out the window. Coming back with open eyes when you're ready. So today I'm going to read to you the prologue, The Path of Remembrance, a very short few verses before we move on to the chapter, The Beginning of the End, When Awakening Costs You Everything Familiar. Prologue, The Path of Remembrance. There comes a time when the search for healing turns inward, when the striving softens, and the quiet voice within begins to whisper, "You were never broken." And suddenly the world slows, and the body speaks, and the soul remembers. Healing emerges when both are honoured, when body and spirit are invited to move together as one. When we trust that even in the struggle, we are whole. When we awaken to the wholeness that was never lost. We do more than heal ourselves. We remind the world of what is possible when people remember who they are. When you remember who you are. This book is your companion on that journey. A mirror, a map, a gentle hand on your back. Welcome. Welcome home. The beginning of the end. When awakening costs you everything familiar. The old world no longer holds you. The new one is not yet formed. See what has been hidden. Feel what has been denied. Listen to what your body is telling you. This is the moment before everything changes, whether you are ready or not. When the old way can no longer hold. There comes a moment when the body simply says no more, when every promise of relief rings hollow, every cure just another kind of cage. For years, I mistook endurance for healing, compliance for courage, and called survival strength. But beneath the exhaustion, beneath the trying and the fixing and the endless search, something deeper was stirring. A quiet insistence that the old way was over. This is where the story fractures, where the cure myth crumbles, where what was once certain turns to dust. And yet, inside the breaking, a pulse of new life. The seed splitting open, the first breath of awakening. We are taught to fear this rupture, but it's how the light gets in. The invitation to stop chasing and start listening. And for me, that moment came suddenly, unmistakably. This was mine. The first stirrings. Pain relief stopped working for me in 2016. Illegal drugs no longer had the desired effect. I'd been taking both since my first major depressive episode, an altered state of mind that hit me in my teenage years, following my first experience of post-concussion headache. It was the late 90s. I'd been out celebrating a friend's 19th birthday. I came home alone, only to be hit by unimaginable, indescribable agony. I lay there, not writhing in pain, but frozen, utterly still, fully expecting what I could only assume must be the onset of certain death. I guess a part of me did die that night. The part of me that had never known pain like that. Pain so intense it could completely incapacitate a person. I hadn't known that kind of suffering could exist. And yet, I didn't die. It happened again and again and again. Eventually, I was left with two conclusions. I wished I was dead. It must be migraine. A debilitating condition I only vaguely knew from childhood. I remembered a friend's mum suffering from it. She'd ask us to massage the back of her head while she struggled to make us dinner. Difficult to diagnose, said the doctor when I told him I thought it was migraine. It can't be migraine, said another. It's not that, when I questioned whether the combination pill might be triggering episodes during the week-long break each month. At nearly every appointment I attended over a 2-decade period, I brought it up. Each time, I was fobbed off, dismissed. The darkness of depression, the suicidal ideation, I didn't know what to call it. I couldn't label what it meant to spend weekends with curtains drawn, lost in endless thoughts of how I might end my life. I only ever said it out loud once, to a boyfriend, a few years later, at my grandparents' golden wedding anniversary, of all places. I told him that sometimes I felt okay, and other times I felt so low I didn't understand why. Panic set in immediately. I worried someone at the dinner table had overheard. I never spoke of it again. I didn't think of it as mental illness. In my circles at work and within friendships, depression just wasn't talked about. My only real reference was that watching the news made me feel depressed, so I didn't watch it. As I moved further into my 20s, I started remembering things. How, as a younger teen, I'd struggled to sleep. How I felt panicky for no clear reason. I realised I must have been anxious even back then. Though I had no idea, I still was. In the absence of support, I'd found my own ways to cope. Distraction, avoidance, numbing out on substances, alcohol, activities, disassociating from how I felt. Unknowingly distancing myself from everything that caused me to feel, for fear and worry that it might lead to pain. I'd spent the first 18 years of my life wishing I'd never been born, only to find myself 18 years later, after the initial onset of post-concussion headache, back in the same space of wishing I were dead. The first time, it was the post-concussion headache and the darkness that followed. This time, it was the breakdown of a 7-year relationship. My dad being diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer, and a move to a city where I knew no one. The reason I moved was so that I could be closer to work. Falling apart in plain sight. Heartbroken, lonely, depressed. I was also at the peak of my career. In both my personal and professional life, people told me, "You're doing so well." Aside from the formalities of writing migraine on health forms and mentioning it to doctors, I told no one. I suffered in silence. Within months of starting my new single life under the bright lights of a new city, the attacks changed completely. The pain, always severe, always disabling, now lasted 24 hours at a time. They were no longer confined to weekends. They began interrupting work, leading to frequent absences. Until then, in my mid-30s, I'd only ever taken one day off due to migraine. They usually hit at the weekend, or during the day where they would at least give me a chance to get home before I locked myself away overnight and repeated the pattern again the next day. Now things were worse. Work issues began piling up. Life was caving in from all sides. I was struggling, unable to cope, waking in the night sobbing, still undiagnosed. After 17 years of being asked no explorative questions, with no meaningful attention paid to what I was saying, I stopped telling doctors and nurses that I thought it was migraine. 17 years of being disbelieved and dismissed. Now I was being misdiagnosed. 17 years of trying to tell someone what I knew was true. The years of dismissal eventually lead into the misdiagnosis of tension headache. 24 hours of severe pain every 2 weeks evolved into 48 hours every 10 days. Day to day, I felt like I was hanging from a cliff edge, the rope fraying. Get on the drugs, said the doctor. Surely there must be another way, I begged. Have sex 3 times a week, he replied. Walking home, I wondered if he had any idea how close I was to jumping off the bridge I crossed daily. The same bridge I walked over to get to work, where I had that same thought every single day. Incessant, looping thoughts of ending it all. One day, I counted all the tablets in my apartment, the ones by my bed, the ones in the cupboard, in my bag, thinking of the ones on my desk at work. None of them had been helping. I couldn't remember the last time they had. But I kept taking them anyway, not because they worked, but out of desperation. Why don't I just take them all and be done with it? They're not helping. No one is listening. I'll be better off dead. No more pain, no more suffering. I thought of so many ways to die, and then I thought about who would find me. The most terrifying thought of all, what if I didn't do a proper job? I'd be left with people who knew, loved ones by my side, seeking answers to questions that I didn't have. Questions I couldn't answer because I didn't understand it myself. The moment I asked for help. After 2 hours of uncontrollably crying in the bath, the hot water giving no relief as promised, I later said to my then boyfriend, I need to speak to someone. I am desperate. It was the first time in my life I boldly expressed a need that clearly. One of my friend's partners is a counsellor, he replied immediately. Do you want me to see if he'll meet with you? Several counselling sessions in, and by the end of that year, I completed the first non-business related review I'd ever done. An annual review of my life. The successes, achievements, highlights, and lessons I'd learned. During the worst, most hideous, disruptive year of my life, a year in which I very nearly took my own life, I wrote reflections on what I had endured. I outlined the year as the toughest, mentally most challenging I had ever faced, and yet I found myself praising all my worldly accomplishments. The car, the home, the career success. Looking back now, I realise those successes meant very little once I had gone on to lose my physical health entirely. Below the annual review, I wrote, "Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to appreciate the good. It is all part of the path." All these years I had, unbeknown to me, dismissed how I had been feeling and what was coming up for my attention. I had no awareness of how tough life could be inside the unseen aspects of my inner world. I had no idea I was minimizing symptoms that had always been debilitating, in much the same way the medical field mirrored back to me. And now, here I was, beginning to write down some of the struggle and what was really coming up for my attention. I ended with a note a dear friend had sent me in the post, along with a leaflet on mental health that had explained some of the things going on in my life were big and valid. "Have I gone mad?" asked the Mad Hatter. "I'm afraid so," said Alice. "You're entirely bonkers. But I'll tell you a secret. All the best people are. Not all those who wander are lost. And sometimes you might even find your true self from time to time. Allow yourself to get lost." Up until this time, I had no idea how lost a person could feel. I'd spent so long dangling from one cliff edge that I thought I had finally hit rock bottom. In hindsight, it was more like tumbling from one cliff edge to the next, unaware then of just how far there was yet to fall. Simultaneously, I was entirely unaware that somewhere deep inside, a quiet part of me was working, watching, waiting, learning that this fall, however brutal, would not be the end. And this is where each chapter moves on to a gentle invitation. And as part of the gentle invitation in this space, we'll settle back once more, cozy ourselves up, get comfy, and come back into the guided meditation, whether you would like to join me in closing your eyes or continue with that gentle gaze in the space to a space ahead of you. Finding once more your breath and reconnecting with where your breath is in this moment. Steadily inhaling and each gentle exhale. Taking your attention from your breath to your physical body, your entire physical being, from your toes, underneath, to the sole of your feet, all the way back up along the back of your legs. Following that energy line all the way along your back, along to the back of your head, round your head up the top, down along the front of your face, and all the way back down the front of your torso, down the front of your legs and back to your toes. Getting a sense of your physical body, feet, legs, torso, arms, head, arms, torso, legs, feet. And asking yourself the question, what do I notice about my physical body in the here and now? What do I notice about my physical body in the here and now? Perhaps there is an ache, tension, pain. Perhaps it feels unfamiliar, uncomfortable, disconnected, or something else. What do you notice about your physical body in the here and now? And taking your attention from the whole of your body to the top of your head space, your mental body, and perhaps your brain. And sometimes we might call that the migraine brain. What do you notice about your head in the here and now? Perhaps it feels loud, noisy, full, thick with cotton wool. Perhaps there's pain, it hurts, accompanied by a desire to want to flee, to run away, to escape. The physical pain, the mental pain, the never-ending thoughts and loops, the to-dos, the should-dos. All the things we need to do, we want to do. We're not looking to fix anything. We're not looking to change anything. We might wish it were different, and we can welcome in that desire as well, of course. We can bring that into this space. But in this moment, we are simply observing, inviting in a judgment-free zone or space. Quietly noticing. Breathing into that. And then taking our attention from our head to our heart. And perhaps you might like to place a hand on your heart or on your heart space, if that feels comforting to you. And let's take a few breaths into this part of our body, gently breathing into our heart space, our chest region. Asking ourselves the question, what do I notice about this part of my body in the here and now? What do I notice about my heart, about my chest, about my heart space in this moment? Perhaps it feels a little tight, restricted. Maybe there's a connection in that way or another way. Maybe it feels open. Maybe it feels new, unfamiliar. Perhaps it's bringing in a new space, a new insight, a new feeling. And again, let's make space for all of it without judgment. Simply witnessing our heart, our head, our body, our body, our head, our heart. Noticing that sometimes these practices feel welcome, they feel restful, they feel relaxing. And sometimes these practices don't feel that way at all. Sometimes they can feel confronting, anxiety-inducing, deeply uncomfortable. I've experienced that myself these past few days. A niggle, something calling for me intention, but it didn't feel comfortable. It didn't feel like something that I wanted to explore in that moment, or like something that I wanted to sit with, so I didn't. I moved from one distraction to another, and I noticed that. I witnessed that in myself. And what was making me feel uncomfortable was that the thought process that accompanied it was that I'd done something wrong or was doing something wrong. And the feeling was discomfort. And the wanting was to distract myself, to move away from that. No, I don't want to go near that. So that's an important part of this practice to speak to. I was eventually willing and able to make some space for it yesterday afternoon. And when I did, I was encouraged or guided to move towards a space where I could make space for that part of me, the part of me that was questioning, that was worrying, that was telling myself really that I'd done something wrong, that I wasn't doing it right, that I didn't know what I was doing. And when I extended that invitation to that part of myself and made space for that part of myself in all of its discomfort, it was still very uncomfortable. I then also connected with another feeling, and that feeling was uncertainty. So what I was really feeling was uncertain. And that can be quite a scary feeling to sit with, can't it? Perhaps you resonate, perhaps you connect with that yourself. We want things to be certain. We want to be sure of what we're doing and what's coming and what's happening next. And if there's one thing I learned early on in this journey was that there's a lot of uncertainty. What was certain back in 2018 during the collapse of my life was that there was no hope, there was no possibility. It was very certain that I was expected to stay that way. to stay fully disabled and chronically unwell for a very, very long time to come, if not permanently. And so the other path, the other option was to find ways to sit with the discomfort and the uncertainty. And that brought about more discomfort. And not necessarily many straightforward answers. Certainly not the help and the support I needed as quickly as what I might have liked or have needed. But just in the same way that I sat with the discomfort and the sense and the thought and the feeling that I was doing something wrong yesterday, and it opened up, made space for another little insight, which was I was sat in the space of uncertainty. It brought something else to light. And with it, an invitation to make space for that part of me that was questioning, that was worrying, that was unsure, that was uncertain. And it was still very dark. The times were still very dark. I was still very unwell. But the breakdown, the cracks, they did make space for a little bit of the light to come in. And it was that light, that hope in the not knowing and the discomfort and the uncertainty of it all that I began to connect with. And the purpose of this book is not to show you how I did it and this is the way I did it and you must too. As we've already mentioned, it's an invitation. It's an invitation for us to sit with the story, to see where we might resonate, where we might experience our own Me Too moments, and open the door to a conversation about what might be possible, about what we might look out for, what connections we might be able to make. And thank you for being here. Thank you for witnessing me. Thank you for making space for yourself and exploring the possibility of witnessing your body, what's coming up for you, your experience, even when in pain, when experiencing pain, discomfort, and the darkness that that brings, and the uncertainty and the not knowing. Let's do this together. I'd love to extend the invitation for you to return and join me. Hopefully this time we'll be able to do it together live once more. But even when we're catching up on replay, I hope that you feel the presence of myself and all of those of us around the world who are in this together. We are not alone. And next week we'll be returning with chapter 3, Dismissed. When pain speaks and no one listens. When pain speaks and no one listens. And with that, I'll close the space, blowing out the candle for those energetic intentions we open the space with. Just a little under, maybe about 45 minutes or so ago. So blowing out the candle for peace, for love, for understanding. Thank you. Thank you for being here.